Everything you were taught about happiness is wrong. Think about the last time you actually felt alive. Not happy in that surface level, something good just happened way. Actually alive. Completely absorbed. Time disappearing. The world going quiet around you. When was that? If you are struggling to remember, that is not a coincidence. That is a crisis. Because most people spend their entire lives chasing happiness in the wrong places. In the notifications, in the likes, in the next purchase, in the weekend they are waiting for all week. And they never find it. Not really. They find temporary relief. And then the emptiness comes back. You know that feeling I am talking about. Yesterday, or maybe this morning, you were sitting with something you were supposed to be doing. A paper, a project, a task that actually matters. And instead of doing it, you drifted. Your phone was right there. One scroll became 20 minutes. You came back to the task, and it felt even harder to start than before. You tried again, drifted again. By the end of the day, you had been awake for 16 hours and somehow felt like you had done nothing. And the worst part, you were not even rested. You were exhausted and empty at the same time. That combination, that specific drained but unfulfilled feeling, is something almost every person your age is living inside right now. ये सिर्फ तुम्हारे साथ नहीं हो रहा. This is not your personal failure. Research shows that people report being happiest, not when they are relaxing, not when they are scrolling, not when they finally have nothing to do, but when they are completely absorbed in a challenging activity that stretches their skills just enough. Just enough. Not too easy, not too hard. That sweet spot has a name, and the science behind it will completely change the way you design your days. By the time this video ends, you are going to understand exactly why some moments in your life have felt electric and alive, while most feel flat and forgettable. You are going to know what that state is called, how it works in your brain, and most importantly, how to access it deliberately, on purpose, starting today. Not as a rare accident, as a daily practice. Stay with me because this might be the most important video you watch this year. Now let us talk about why this feeling is so rare. Because it used to be more common. Before every pocket had a supercomputer in it, human beings got bored and then they found things to do. They built, they created, they figured things out, they got absorbed. Boredom led to engagement. Now boredom lasts approximately 8 seconds before you reach for your phone. The companies behind those apps are not neutral tools. They are engagement machines built by some of the most brilliant psychologists and engineers on Earth. And their one job is to make sure that every time your brain starts to feel even slightly understimulated, your hand moves automatically to your screen. Variable reward schedules, the same psychological mechanism used in slot machines, are built into every feed, every notification system, every like counter. Your brain gets a tiny hit of dopamine and then wants more. And the cycle keeps going, not because you are weak, because it is engineered to be inescapable. But here is the deeper problem. These platforms do not just steal your time. They steal your ability to enter the state that actually makes life feel worth living. Every time you interrupt deep engagement with a quick scroll, you train your brain to resist depth. You make it harder to concentrate. You lower your threshold for boredom. You make that alive feeling rarer and rarer. The machine is not just taking your hours. It is slowly taking your capacity for genuine experience. But here is the good news. That capacity is not gone. It is just buried, and it can be rebuilt. Deliberately, systematically, starting with understanding what it actually is. The ability to enter deep, absorbing, meaningful states of engagement is not a gift some people are born with. It is not flow reserved for artists or athletes or geniuses. It is a human capacity. Every single person watching this has experienced it at least once. That time you were so into a game you forgot to eat. That conversation that went 3 hours and felt like 20 minutes. That creative project where you looked up and it was dark outside. That was not luck. That was a specific psychological state your brain is capable of entering. And the science shows you can learn to access it more often. Think about learning to cook. The first time you made something from scratch, it was overwhelming. Too many steps, too much to track, too much uncertainty. But you kept doing it. And at some point, you got into a rhythm where your hands knew what to do and you were just in it. Fully present, fully engaged, not thinking about anything else. That rhythm is available to you in almost any area of your life. The book that explains exactly how is called Flow, written by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, one of the most important psychologists of the 20th century. He spent decades studying people at their best, researching what makes life genuinely worth living, and what he found will change how you think about every single day. Let us get into the heart of it. The most important thing Csikszentmihalyi discovered is this. The activities that make people feel most alive are almost never the ones they think will make them happy. People think they want more free time, more leisure, more relaxation. But when researchers actually tracked people's moment-to-moment experiences, they found something surprising. People felt better, more engaged, more capable, more alive when they were working on something challenging than when they were passively relaxing. The idea that you will finally feel good when you have nothing to do is one of the biggest myths about happiness ever told. So, about the last truly great vacation you had, chances are the moments you remember most were not the ones where you were lying still. They were the moments where you were exploring something new, trying something difficult, figuring something out, moving through an environment that asked something of you. The joy was in the engagement, not the escape. This is why so many people feel a strange emptiness on Sunday evenings, even though Sunday is supposed to be a rest day. Because rest without purpose, leisure without engagement, just creates a vacuum that anxiety rushes into. The solution is not to rest less. It is to understand what real restoration actually looks like and what real aliveness actually requires. Practical tip. Think about one activity in your life right now that sometimes absorbs you completely. Maybe it is a sport, a creative hobby, a type of problem you enjoy solving. Identify it. Protect time for it this week, not as a reward for finishing work, as a necessary part of living a full life. Schedule 30 minutes for it today and treat it as seriously as any other commitment. Lekin Sun. Flow does not happen by accident, and it does not happen in just any activity. Csikszentmihalyi identified a very specific set of conditions that make it possible. The most important one is what he calls the challenge-skill balance. Flow happens in the zone between boredom and anxiety. When a task is too easy, your brain disengages. You start thinking about other things. You drift. You reach for your phone. When a task is too hard, you panic. You freeze. You avoid. You feel helpless. But when the challenge is just slightly beyond your current skill level, just enough to require your full attention without overwhelming you, your brain locks in. That is the channel where flow lives. Think about playing a video game you are really good at. When you are on a level that is way too easy, you get bored within minutes. When you hit a level that feels impossible, you get frustrated and want to quit. But when the level is right at the edge of what you can do, where you might fail but you have a real shot at winning, you play for hours without noticing time pass. That exact mechanism works in studying, in writing, in athletic training, in any skill-based activity. The game is not to make things easier. The game is to find the edge. Yemat Karo, do not simplify your challenges to make them comfortable. Every time you choose the easier version of a task because the harder version feels intimidating, you push yourself further from flow and deeper into boredom. The discomfort at the edge of your ability is not a sign to retreat. It is a sign you are in the right place. Ajsi, when you sit down to study or work, ask yourself, is this task actually challenging me, or am I just going through motions? If it is too easy, increase the difficulty. Test yourself instead of reviewing. Set a time constraint. Add a layer of complexity. Find the edge. Ab aate hain to something that most people get completely wrong about focus and productivity. Csikszentmihalyi found that flow requires uninterrupted time, not just undistracted time. Uninterrupted time. There is a difference. Undistracted means you are not looking at your phone. Uninterrupted means nothing breaks your chain of concentration for long enough that you build genuine momentum. Research on deep cognitive work shows that it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully regain concentration after an interruption. 23 minutes. So if your phone buzzes and you glance at it for 5 seconds, you have not lost 5 seconds. You have lost up to 23 minutes of your capacity to do deep, meaningful, flow-accessible work. This is why people can sit at their desk for 6 hours and feel like they did 2 hours of real work. Because they were interrupted by notifications, by habit, by background noise, dozens of times throughout the day. I will be honest here. For a long time, I thought I was good at multitasking. I thought checking my messages quickly in the middle of a work session was harmless. I thought background music with lyrics was fine. I was completely wrong. The moment I started protecting 90-minute uninterrupted blocks, phone in another room, notifications off, door closed, one task only, the quality of what I produced changed so dramatically it almost felt like cheating. Not because I was working harder. Because I was finally working deep enough to access the state where real thinking happens. Ek kaam karo. Today, protect one 90-minute block for your most important task. Phone in another room. Notifications completely off. One tab open. Set a timer and do not stop until it goes off. That single block, done consistently, will change what your days are capable of producing. Yahan ek aur cheez hai that Csikszentmihalyi found about flow. It requires clear goals and immediate feedback. This sounds almost too simple, but it is profoundly important. When you know exactly what you are trying to accomplish in a session, and you can tell in real time whether you are making progress, your brain can fully commit to the task. When the goal is vague and the feedback is delayed, your brain stays partially in planning mode, never fully releasing into action. Think about why sports are so naturally flow-inducing. The goal is completely clear. Score, win, improve your time, hit the target. And the feedback is immediate. You made the shot or you did not. You ran faster or you did not. The ball went where you aimed or it did not. Your brain has everything it needs to fully engage. Now compare that to studying for an exam 3 weeks away with no clear marker of how well you understand the material. Vague goal, no immediate feedback. Your brain cannot commit. It keeps floating to other things because there is nothing concrete enough to anchor it. The fix is to manufacture clarity and feedback for yourself. Before you sit down to work, write down in one sentence exactly what you will accomplish in this session. Not study biology. Be able to explain the 3 stages of cellular respiration from memory by the end of this session. Then test yourself as you go. Quiz yourself after every section. That immediate feedback loop, I got it, I did not get it, I am improving, is what your brain needs to stop drifting and start locking in. Abhisi, before your next study or work session, write one specific goal for that session on a piece of paper. One sentence, specific enough that you will know whether you achieved it. Put it in front of you and work toward that target. That single practice will make your sessions more productive than they have been in months. Abhyasuno, one of the most beautiful ideas in this entire book is that flow is available everywhere, not just in career or academic work. In conversation, in exercise, in cooking, in commuting, in any activity where you choose to bring full intentional attention. Csikszentmihalyi studied people who found flow in repetitive jobs, assembly line workers who turned their task into a game of precision and speed, surgeons who entered a state of deep absorption during complex procedures, farmers who found meditation-like states in physical labor. Flow is not about what you do. It is about how completely you bring yourself to it. This reframes everything. You do not need a more exciting life to feel more alive. You need to show up more fully to the life you already have. The boring commute becomes interesting when you decide to notice 5 things you have never noticed before. The routine workout becomes energizing when you track your performance and compete against your own previous best. The conversation becomes connecting when you put your phone away and actually listen with your full attention instead of half your attention. Mujhe yakin hai that somewhere in your current life there are activities you have been showing up to halfway. Work you do while also checking your phone. Meals you eat while also watching something. Conversations you have while also scrolling. Every one of those is an opportunity for a richer experience that you are trading for a diluted one. Choose one activity today, just one, and do it with your complete and total attention. No second screen, no background noise, just that thing, fully. Dekho, the science hai behind all of this. Csikszentmihalyi's research shows that people in flow report significantly higher levels of not just enjoyment but meaning. The feeling that what they are doing matters, that they are using themselves fully, that their life is moving forward instead of just passing. That feeling of meaning is not something you find. It is something you create through the quality of your engagement with your days. And here is something that genuinely surprised me when I first read this. Flow builds on itself. Every time you successfully enter flow, you make it slightly easier to enter it again. You are literally training your nervous system to move into that state. The first few times you try to protect deep work blocks, they will feel difficult and uncomfortable. Your brain will resist. It will want the familiar stimulation of the phone. But after a week of consistent practice, something shifts. Entering focus becomes easier. Staying in it becomes more natural. The state becomes more accessible. You are rewiring yourself. Ajsi, start the rewiring. Even one good session today starts the process. Let me tell you about someone whose story stayed with me long after I finished this book. A college student, junior year, engineering major, came into his semester completely overwhelmed, behind on assignments, struggling in 2 classes, spending most of his days in a state of low-grade panic where he was never fully working and never fully resting. He described it as living in the shallow end of everything. He tried the flow principles from this book as a kind of last resort. He started with one change, one 90-minute deep work block every morning, before class, phone off, specific goal written down, door closed. The first week was brutal. His brain kept pulling toward distraction. He would check the clock every 10 minutes. He got through maybe 40 minutes of real work before his focus collapsed. But he kept showing up. By the second week, the 40 minutes became 60. By the third week, he was going the full 90 and not wanting to stop. By the end of the semester, 8 weeks after starting, he had not just caught up. He had finished his 2 hardest projects ahead of deadline for the first time in his academic life. He told people he had not changed his intelligence or his schedule. He had just changed how deeply he was willing to show up to the time he already had. Yar, that student had the same 24 hours you have. He had the same brain, the same distractions, the same competing demands. The only thing that changed was his relationship with depth. And if he could do it from a place of panic and overwhelm, तुम्हारे लिए ये बहुत easier है. Because you are starting with awareness he never had. So here is your challenge. It is so small you have absolutely no excuse. Today, not tomorrow, not Monday, today. Find a 60-minute window somewhere in your schedule. It does not have to be your best window. Any 60 minutes. Write down one specific thing you will accomplish in that window. Put your phone in a different room or at minimum turn off all notifications. Set a timer. Start. And when the timer goes off, notice how you feel. Notice whether the time passed differently than your usual sessions. Notice whether you feel more satisfied than you normally do after an hour of scattered, interrupted work. Obviously, pull out your calendar or your planner and find that 60-minute slot. Circle it, name it, protect it like it is the most important appointment of your day, because for your brain, it is. What happens when you do this consistently is not just that you get more done, it is that you start to feel different about your days. The fog lifts, the flatness lifts. You start to remember what it feels like to be fully inside your own life instead of watching it pass from behind a screen. Imagine 6 months of this. Imagine Tum sitting down to work in the morning and actually entering that absorbed, time-disappearing state within minutes instead of fighting your own brain for an hour. Imagine finishing a session and feeling genuinely satisfied instead of vaguely guilty. Imagine knowing, not just hoping, actually knowing, that the work you are doing today is the best version of what you are capable of. In your studies or your career, imagine what becomes possible. Not because you suddenly have more hours, because you are finally using the hours you have at a depth that produces real results. The projects that used to take you 3 scattered days getting done in one focused morning. The concepts that never stuck finally clicking because you gave them your complete attention. The opportunities recognizing you because you show up to your work differently than everyone else around you. In your relationships, imagine being the person who is actually there, not half there. Not present in body, but absent in attention. Fully there. Because when Tum know how to focus, you can choose to focus on people too. Imagine conversations that leave both people feeling seen and understood instead of conversations that happened while both people were also somewhere else. And inside yourself, imagine the quiet confidence of someone who knows they can access their own best, who does not need constant external stimulation because they have found something richer inside their own engaged attention. That peace, that aliveness, that sense of being fully in your own experience, that is what flow gives you. And it is available to Tum. Starting today, starting in the next 60 minutes if you choose it. तुम्हारे अंदर वो सब कुछ है. The capacity for deep focus, for full engagement, for a life that feels genuinely lived rather than passively experienced, it has always been inside you. It did not disappear. It got buried under years of fragmented attention, engineered distraction, and a culture that taught you busyness instead of depth. Tum capable of so much more than your current days are showing you. Not because you are extraordinary, although you might be, but because you are human. And humans were built for exactly this kind of deep, absorbed, meaningful engagement with life. That is what the research shows. That is what Csikszentmihalyi spent his life proving. The only thing missing was never ability. It was direction. You have that now. If this video unlocked something for you, hit the like button. One tap, and it reaches someone else who has been living in the shallow end and does not know why. Subscribe to Book Brief Hub because every week we break down books like this one into lessons Tum can actually use in your real life. And share this with one person who you know has been feeling flat and unfulfilled without being able to name why. Go find your flow.